Are you ready for an epic ride as we navigate through the triumphs and disappointments of one of the most important years in hip hop history? Because today we're going to be looking at the 5 best and worst albums of 2022. 2022 was a year like no other in the rap world. We saw some of the biggest artists in the game make their return to the limelight and take bold career defining risks, while also seeing some young rappers take the leap into superstardom. The only problem was that we also got some of the most terrible and embarrassing albums in the genre's history this year. From game changing albums to some of the most pathetic pieces of trash that hip hop has ever seen, we're going to be taking a look at the albums that changed our lives and the ones that crushed our souls. Without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's embark on this thrilling musical journey as we unveil the best and worst of what 2022 had to offer.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit that I have ever heard.
Starting off with the worst albums of 2022, at number 5, we got
God did. God did. God did.
Now, before I violate this piece of garbage, I will say one thing that I genuinely like about it. The self-titled track on this project is amazing. It is a legendary collaboration between Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, John Legend, and of course Jay-Z, who spits one of the best verses of his entire career on this track. If it wasn't for Khaled's annoying screaming all over this song, it would genuinely be a perfect track, but even with his head-inducing screams, this song is still amazing. It is that good. Before the rest of this album, oh my god, this is the most creatively bankrupt record of the entire year. It is actually pathetic that Khaled got everyone from Drake to Eminem on this project and could not do anything remotely special with this list of talent. Kanye West, Jay-Z, Future, SZA, Lil Baby, Eminem, 21 Savage, Lil Wayne, Gunna, Quavo, Jadakiss, Rick Ross, Juice WRLD, and so many others. This is the Avengers Endgame equivalent of team-up events in the music world, and Khaled did nothing with it. Absolutely nothing. Having all of this talent on the same project and only being able to make generic trap songs and I'm the One clones is just pathetic. We get it, Khaled. I Am the One was a huge song. Stop trying to make it over and over again. The best way to describe God Did is pathetic. As it stands, it's one of Khaled's most embarrassing records, and it is one of the worst of 2022. Now, looking at the best albums of 2022, at number 5, we have Nas's King's Disease 3, which is one of the most impressive albums in hip-hop history for a multitude of reasons. The first thing that makes King's Disease 3 so special is that it is the 3rd installment in Nas's King's Disease series, and despite it being his 4th album in less than 3 years, it managed to be his most polished and inspired record in this entire run of his career. In addition to this, KD3 is also one of the best projects ever made by an artist who is 30 years into their career. The fact that Nas has been in the rap game since the early 90s and he is making an album this good in 2022, it's a testament to his greatness, and there are very few rappers his age who have made projects as good as this. Nas just delivers an all-time great performance here, sounding wiser than ever and behind the boards. Hit Boy crafts this beautiful sounding score that sounds so lavish and profound. This is the epitome of luxury rap, as Nas's smooth, buttery flow glides over these polished instrumentals from Hit Boy to create such an opulent experience. There are so many highlights on this album, from Thun, where we see Nas tear into the track, even joking about his rivalry with Jay-Z, to 30, which is an epic cut that features Nas celebrating the longevity he has been able to attain in the rap game. When we look at the legacy of King's Disease 3, it is such a special album for all it accomplishes. From a lyrical standpoint, it holds so much value and depth, and it is one of the best produced albums of the last 5 years. Beyond this record being a testament to the fact that hip-hop is an ageless game, this is one of Nas's best albums ever, and it is in the top 5 of this elite year. Going back to the worst albums of 2022 is Drake's Honestly Nevermind, and similar to God Did, I'm going to try to be positive as I start this off. I'm going to tell you what I like first. Jimmy Cooks is really good. That's all I have to say. That's it as far as my praise for this album goes. Now, I know there's going to be people running to the comments telling me that I don't know music or that Drake is so brave for taking this risk into new musical territory, but no. He's not. Drake did not put the effort into this record for it to be an actual risk. Just like Drake has done in the past, he has bitten off popular sounds of other trends and implemented them into his own music, and the results of it here, oh my god, they are just terrible. The vibes of this album just don't work on a fundamental level. They don't play to the strengths of house music, they do not play to the strengths of anything. Drake's whiny vocals and lifeless demeanor are just so terrible, I cannot stand to listen to them. This album is truly a painful listen. For honestly, never mind just being a complete musical failure, and for being one of the most lazy and thoughtless attempts at switching genres ever. This record is amongst the worst of 2022. I had to put it here. And now back to the best albums list. At number 4, we got Melt My Eyes, See Your Future by Denzel Curry. And with this album, Denzel really delivered one of the most emotionally and spiritually empowering hip-hop records ever released in the genre's history. This album is the ultimate deconstruction of Denzel Curry, not just as an artist, but as a human being. We learn not just about the experiences he's faced in his life, but we see how they've affected him as a person. We see how they've affected his emotional state. He gets vulnerable on this record, rapping about his inner fears and struggles, and he finds peace within himself during the process of it all. Denzel best explores this on the emotional crux of this album, Angels, where he explains how he spent his whole life searching for validation from others instead of finding peace and worth within himself. These are such powerful sentiments that are so profoundly explored, and they can be applied to every single one of our lives. Alongside Denzel Curry's powerful examination of himself, this record is amazing musically, with a modern take on a classic jazz rap sound that made records like The Roots' Things Fall Apart and Common's Like Water for Chocolate so beloved. Take the centerpiece of this entire album, Walkin'. Denzel is able to embody everything that makes hip-hop such a beautiful art form, from the jazz-influenced soulful production, his conscious lyricism, but also he adds a modern twist with an intense beat switch that borrows trap drums and the fast tempo of today's biggest songs. For Melt My Eyes, See Your Future's powerful themes and modern take on a jazz rap sound, it is amongst the very best albums of 2022. As we finish talking about a good album, we now gotta talk about a bad album, and at number 3 for the worst albums of 2022, we have Jack Harlow's Come Home, The Kids Miss You, and despite this thing somehow getting nominated for a Grammy, oh my god, this thing is not good. Listen, I do not want to talk about this album for too long, just thinking about it makes me sick, but to sum up what makes this album such a wretched listening experience, it's the fact that it's pretty much Tinder the album, and I mean that in the worst way possible. Jack Harlow's performance, oh my god, it's just so uncomfortable to bear through. This may be the worst lyrical performance that I have ever heard. The production is so bland, and when Jack is not coming off as super cringe and uncomfortable, he's just flat out boring. This is truly one of the most lifeless and dull records that I have ever heard, and if it wasn't for that Drake verse on Churchill Downs, this thing would be even lower on the list. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about this for much longer. I really cannot stand even thinking about this record. Come Home, The Kids Miss You. It is not good. It is near the bottom of this list. Coming in at the number 3 spot, we have the collab album between legendary Roots frontman Black Thought and Sonic mastermind Danger Mouse with Cheat Codes. Now, for years, Black Thought and Danger Mouse were rumored to be teaming up and dropping an album together, and once this project finally dropped, it blew all expectations out of the water, becoming one of the best rapper-producer albums of our generation. The excellence and experience that both Thought and Danger Mouse have at this point in their careers allows for them to collaborate seamlessly and create one of the best musical products of their respective careers, and that is saying a lot. The distorted and muddied up score of Danger Mouse complements the ruthless demeanor of Black Thought so masterfully. The two work together to perfection to create one of the most cohesive and well-crafted albums of the entire decade so far, and making this record even better. This album has one of the most star-studded feature lists of all time, and every single featured guest delivers an all-time great performance. A$AP Rocky, Raekwon, Joey Badass, Conway the Machine, LP, Killer Mike, the late MF Doom, and even Russ, they all deliver great verses that complement Black Thought perfectly. All in all, when it comes to rapper-producer collab albums, Cheat Codes will only continue to get more respect as time goes on. This record is truly amazing. Coming in as the second worst album of 2022, we have a record that is so bad with DaBaby's Baby on Baby 2. Now listen up. On the past 3 records that I've talked about, I have said some good things for those projects, but when it comes to Baby on Baby 2, I got nothing positive to say. That's how bad this thing is. Baby on Baby 2 is a miserable and desperate cry from a rapper fighting to stay relevant. DaBaby is trying to bait us back into his career. He's trying to get us to buy back into his terrible and bland music with a sequel to the project that made him a household name, and it just doesn't work. This record is just lame by all means of the word. There is no inspiration for this album besides money. DaBaby is beating the dead horse that is his career on this project, trying to do anything to garner buzz, and he really gets desperate and really does do some clout chasing on this record. He tries to diss Megan Thee Stallion, rap over the same redundant type beats that he always has, and we get it, DaBaby. You like using that same flow over and over again, but guess what? This isn't 2019 anymore. You are not going to entertain us with that same boring flow that you have now been using for nearly 5 years. Get over it and move on. Nobody can take it anymore. This record just straight out sucks, and I would not want my mortal enemy to listen to this thing. And at number 2, for the best albums of 2022, we got Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and wow. Talk about meeting expectations after a 5-year hiatus. Kendrick Lamar blew the world away with this record as he redefined his image and his path, not just as an artist, not just as an MC, but as an individual. When it comes to this record, everything is centered around Kendrick Lamar. The man who was once looked at in the eyes of the people as a savior of some sort destroys this complex to show us the real man that he truly is. Kendrick reveals to us his imperfections and failures as a person and lets us embark on his journey towards self-acceptance. Through a double-disc, action-packed, Kodak Black narrated experience, Kendrick Lamar teaches us the most important lesson of them all. That none of us are perfect, and that's okay. As people, we are always struggling with imperfection, and as long as we can admit that we are putting our best foot forward to become the best individual that we can be, that is all we can do, and that's okay. By stripping down his persona and choosing to take care of himself and his soul, Kendrick Lamar showed the music world what real strength is, and because of all he's able to do, accomplish, and explore on this record, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers is taking the number 2 spot on this elite list. And coming in at the number 1 spot for the worst album of 2022, we actually have a tie. Now guys, I have to be honest, I did do a little cheating here. There is not 1, there's not 2, but there's 3 albums taking this spot, and these 3 godforsaken records are Tom MacDonald's Renegade, The Revolution, and his collab album, The Brave. This is the anti-trilogy, the 3 albums that you never want to hear. Oh my god, these things are terrible. They are all so bad, I genuinely could not decide which one was the worst, so you know what? They're all here. You know you suck at this music thing when not 1, not 2, but 3 of your records are taking the worst album of the year spot. Now, let me compose myself and let me try my best to get through this. Tom MacDonald is a rapper. You know what? That is disrespectful to hip-hop. He is a wannabe rapper who just makes the most cringy music that I have ever heard. This guy makes Kids Bop look like frickin' Kanye West and the Beatles. That is how bad he is. From the actual things he is talking about, which I don't even want to get started on, to his clunky flow, headache-inducing demeanor, terrible beat choices. Oh my god, he's not good at a single thing. There is not one redeeming quality about this man and the albums that he's put out. You know what? DJ Khaled, Drake, Jack Harlow, and DaBaby, I'm sorry. I was wrong to include you on a list like this where Tom MacDonald is on it. These 3 records are so bad that they make these other albums look actually good in comparison. That is the crazy thing. Tom MacDonald creates a whole new level of what being bad means. If I was rating these records, these albums would break this scale. Even if I gave them a 0 out of 10, that does not feel fair because there is nothing good about these records. They are a disservice and a disgrace to music, and if you're not going to take my word for it, just know that I warned you. Nothing gets worse than this trilogy of Tom MacDonald projects. And finally, with the bad stuff out of the way, we can now look at the best album of 2022. A record that has defined not just this amazing year, but will go on to define a generation and hip-hop as a whole due to all it embodies. But before I can unveil this pick, let me go through some quick honorable mentions. Shout out to Red Veil's Learn to Swim, this kid is up next. Rock Marciano and The Alchemist, The Elephant Man's Bones, this was a collaboration made in heaven, these two don't miss. Joey Badass's 2000, this was a nearly perfect sequel album. Pusha T's It's Almost Dry, Pusha T, Kanye West, Pharrell Williams, that is just a deadly trio and they deliver the heat on this record. Billy Wood's Ethiops, this is one of the most thought-provoking and well put together concept albums that I have heard in quite some time. Quedeca's I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, oh my god, this record was just an out-of-body experience. Conway the Machine's God Don't Make Mistakes, this was one of the most powerful, personal, and exciting records that I heard in all of last year. Kevin Abstract's The Family, this was a beautiful way to end off Brockhampton's legendary but complicated run, and Lupe Fiasco's Drill Music in Zion, that is one of the most thought-provoking and well put together albums that I have ever heard from a lyrical standpoint. With all those out of the way, the best album of 2022 is J.I.D's The Forever Story. When it comes to The Forever Story, the question you need to ask yourself is, what does this record not get right? J.I.D. delivers an all-time great performance and puts together an all-time great album that does not just represent himself masterfully, but embodies what hip-hop is about as a whole. The Forever Story explores all of the core themes and ideas that have been laid out in hip-hop's 50-year history. From the come-up to the pain he's faced to social issues to his personal issues, J.I.D. lays everything out on this project, handles it with so much depth, and executes it all to perfection. Whether you're a fan of 90s hip-hop or trap music, you will love this record because it puts all of hip-hop's spirit into one beautiful and cohesive body of work. Just look at the feature list, from Mos Def to Lil Wayne to Lil Durk. The performances throughout this record span across generations of hip-hop greatness. Musically, The Forever Story is top-notch also, with its versatile soundscape embodying the chaos of J.I.D's skill set and the core of his musical roots. From the high intensity of Dance Now to the sleekness of Can't Punk Me, everything is tuned to perfection here, and it makes for a record that is filled to the brim with highlights. With J.I.D. cementing himself as a full-blown superstar on this project, mastering how to use his wide array of flows, one-of-a-kind voice, elite pen game, and surprisingly beautiful singing ability, he has now cemented himself as one of the faces of hip-hop right now with this record, and one that could very well take the mantle from either his mentor J. Cole or even Kendrick Lamar. For being a modern-day classic that is going to age like wine, The Forever Story is the best album of 2022. So there you have it. Do you agree with my lists? Be sure to let me know, and if you want to see more lists like these, check out my video on the best and worst albums of 2023 so far. We have an entire series going year by year of the best 5 and worst albums in hip-hop history coming, so be sure to subscribe and be on the lookout for that. Thank you for watching. Your support means everything. Mr. F, Fantastic Hip Hop, signing out. Have a great day.